What's wrong, Jake? Something up? I asked, lowering my voice. He shook his head, forcing a smile. No, it's nothing, Ms. Rose. Just glad you're back. But his eyes betrayed worry. I wanted to press him, but the light turned green. The driver hit the gas and the car pulled away, leaving Jake watching me from the street, gripping the brim of his cap tightly. As we neared Emily's house, I asked the driver to stop a short distance from the gate. I wanted to surprise them, to see Emily's face when she found me standing at the door. I grabbed my suitcase and walked through the snow-covered path, my boots leaving deep prints. The golden glow from the houses around shone like lit candles. From a distance, I heard a guitar and singing coming from Emily's living room. I smiled, picturing her singing like when she was a kid, standing by my side, belting out Winter Wonderland with that clear voice. I left my suitcase on the step, took a deep breath, and got ready to knock. But then a mocking laugh cut through the air, sharp as a knife. I froze. My hand hovered, not touching the door. Mr. Harold Whitlock's deep, gruff voice boomed clearly. That's what they call a daughter-in-law. A woman who can't even have kids. For miscarriages. Haven't they embarrassed us enough? His laugh was heavy, dripping with contempt. Then Ryan's voice, cold and cruel, chimed in. Always faking depression, locking herself in her room to do nothing. If it weren't for my parents, I'd have kicked her out ages ago. Another laugh erupted, followed by the clinking of wine glasses. I heard Abigail, Ryan's sister, her tone venomous. Yeah, totally useless. A wife who can't have kids. What's she good for? Pretending to be sick just to get coddled. Pathetic. Each word stabbed my heart. I stood there paralyzed. My breath caught in my throat. This was how they treated my Emily, my daughter, who dreamed of a happy family, who poured her heart into every meal for her husband. Now they were humiliating her like this. For miscarriages, each one leaving her sobbing until she had no tears left during our phone calls. And now they said she was faking it. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. And that's when I saw Emily curled up in a wooden chair on the porch in just a thin blouse, her head bowed, her whole body trembling in the freezing cold. My eyes blurred with tears. My heart stopped. I scooped Emily into my arms. Her body was still shaking, cold as a block of ice. My hands trembled, too, not just from the bitter Boise night, but from the rage burning in my chest. Each step toward the Whitlock's door felt like it carried 1,000 pounds. But I didn't stop. I pounded on the wooden door, my knocks firm, drowning out the Christmas music blaring inside. Jingle bells looped over and over, mocking the painful scene I just witnessed. No one came to open it. I gritted my teeth and banged harder like I wanted to knock the door down in one blow. Finally, the door swung open. Mrs. Evelyn stood there, a glass of red wine wobbling in her hand. Her lips painted bright red, glossy under the light. The smell of alcohol wafted from her, but her face wore a forced smile, trying to seem polite. Hey, Ms. Rose, what a surprise, she said, her voice syrupy, but fake, like I was an unwelcome guest. Why didn't you let us know so we could roll out the red carpet? I locked eyes with her, not bothering to hide my anger. Let you know, I growled, each word hissing through my teeth. If I'd let you know, how would I have seen this? What did you do to my daughter? I held Emily tighter, feeling her faint breath against my shoulder. Each breath was a reminder I couldn't let this slide. Evelyn raised an eyebrow, glancing at Emily in my arms with a grimace, like she was looking at something annoying. Emily just wanted some fresh air, she said, her tone soft but laced with contempt. Don't make a big deal out of it. It's Christmas. Come in. Don't stand out in the cold. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Fresh air. While my daughter was practically freezing outside in a thin blouse. Before I could respond, Ryan appeared behind his mother, his shirt unbuttoned, exuding deliberate nonchalance. He held a bottle of wine and shot me a defiant look. "Mom, close the door," he said, his tone dripping with arrogance, chin raised. "Let her stay out there till she gets over it. Who shows up to Christmas dinner acting all fragile to get out of helping?" He let out a mocking chuckle, like he'd said something clever. Those words were another knife, not just in my heart, but in Emily's. I felt her body shrink in my arms like she wanted to vanish. From the table, Abigail's voice rang out sharp and venomous. "Exactly. A woman who can't even carry a baby to term. What's she worth? Useless." Her laugh cut like a blade, mixing with the murmurs of others around the table. I heard Abigail's 2 kids, Emily's cousins, run out to the porch, curious. They looked at Emily in my arms, then giggled, whispering to each other, "Aunt Emily's in trouble." Their innocent little voices burned like salt in an open wound. My face flushed with rage. I rammed my shoulder into the door, then kicked it hard. The door flew open, slamming against the wall with a bang that silenced the room. Evelyn's wine sloshed, spilling red stains onto the expensive rug. The Christmas music stopped abruptly, like someone had yanked the speaker's plug. The air in the room turned heavy, suffocating, like all the oxygen had been sucked out. I stepped into the center of the living room, still holding Emily. Each step left a trail of melted snow on the hardwood floor, like marks of rage that couldn't be erased. Every eye was on me. Mr. Harold, his face cold. Evelyn, her fake smile gone. Abigail, her eyes full of disdain. The rest of the family, a mix of shock and annoyance. I felt their hostility in every glance, but I didn't care. Carefully, I settled Emily on the couch, draping my scarf over her shoulders. Her hands were still icy, trembling like the snow's cold still clung to her. I knelt, looking into her eyes, trying to give her some of my strength, though inside I was a storm of fury and pain. The Whitlocks' living room was still brightly lit. The fireplace crackled, but the atmosphere was thick like everyone was bracing for an explosion. Ryan stepped closer, his face red from the wine, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. He lowered his voice, cold, but still smug, like he owned the place. "You don't get to make a scene in my house, Rose," he said, emphasizing my house like he was reminding me I was an outsider. Ryan stood tall, one hand on his hip, his shirt half unbuttoned in a gesture of contempt. But in his eyes, I caught a flicker of uncertainty. He knew I wasn't someone easily intimidated. I shot to my feet, pointing straight at his face, my voice trembling with fury. "No, right?" I snapped. "And you? You think you have the right to throw my daughter out into the cold? To let her nearly freeze to death?" My blood boiled in my head. Every word exploded from my chest. "Is that what you call a husband? Is that what you call family?" I glanced around at the banquet table, the plates still steaming, the wine glasses glinting like they were mocking Emily's suffering. Mr. Harold Whitlock rose slowly from the head of the table, adjusting his suit jacket, his deep voice resonating with authority. "That's enough, Ms. Rose," he said. "This is a family matter. A woman who can't bear children needs to learn to endure. That's just how it is." His words hit like a sledgehammer, cold and cruel. I locked eyes with him, seeing the arrogance of a man who'd spent years as a judge, used to controlling everything. But today he'd picked the wrong opponent. I glanced at the table where the roasted turkey still wafted its aroma, the cornbread stuffing neatly arranged, the wine sparkling under the lights. Then I looked at Emily, still shivering on the couch, her stomach faintly growling like a silent accusation. I couldn't hold back anymore. My voice erupted, sharp and cutting. "So you feast while my daughter's outside in 32 degrees weather. No coat, no food. That's what you call tradition. That's what you call humanity." Evelyn shrugged, her smile icy, like I was blowing things out of proportion. "A woman who can't have kids, even if she eats, is just a waste," she said softly, her voice dripping with disdain. She raised her wine glass and took a sip, as if to show she didn't care one bit about my feelings or Emily's. Abigail chimed in from the table, her tone acidic, rubbing salt in the wound. Your daughter always uses depression as an excuse to avoid work. She said, in all this time, has she ever cooked a decent meal for the family? All she does is lie in bed whining, dragging everyone down. She shook her head, her eyes full of mockery, like Emily was a burden the whole Whitlock family had to bear. Murmurs from the relatives around the table grew louder. Some shook their heads, others snickered as if they agreed with those venomous words. Every sound, every sidelong glance pierced my chest like another stab. I wanted to flip that fancy table over to demand justice for my daughter. But then a faint voice came from the couch. Emily, my little girl, had stirred. She tried to sit up, her trembling hands gripping the edge of the couch. I'm so tired, she stammered, her voice breaking, barely audible. No one understands. Her words were crushed instantly by Ryan's shout. Enough, he barked. Shut up. You've embarrassed me enough already. He stepped toward her, his gaze icy, like he wanted to shatter what little strength she had left. I saw Emily's shoulders slump, her red eyes brimming with tears, and my heart tightened. I stepped in front of her, ready to do whatever it took to protect her. Memories of Emily flooded my mind like an avalanche. I remembered the days she'd call me, sobbing over the phone. Each time she lost a child, the first, the second, the third, the fourth. With every miscarriage, her soul broke into pieces. She'd been a sweet girl who dreamed of a warm home, family dinners with her husband and kids. But the pain over and over had pushed her to the edge of despair. I tried to be there for her, even through long distanciance calls. But I never imagined the Whitlock family, the ones I trusted, would treat my daughter like this. Ryan, my son-in-law, who I once thought was a decent man, now showed his true face. A cruel bully who cast my daughter out into the cold, treating her like garbage. I was on the verge of losing it. Through the window, I saw Jake standing silently on the porch. Maybe he'd been patrolling the neighborhood, his hard gaze and clenched fist showing he'd heard and witnessed this cruelty. I gave him a slight nod, signaling him not to step in just yet. But inside, his presence was a ray of hope. I knew I wasn't alone. I had a witness, someone who knew the truth. Ryan took another step, pointing at me, dropping the mask of politeness. I'm warning you. This is my house, he said. Stay out of it or things will get worse. He smirked, convinced I'd back down under the Whitlock family's power. He was wrong. I clenched my fists, my knuckles cracking, feeling all the rage I'd bottled up in my life explode in that moment. The air in the room was so thick it felt like a single spark could set it all ablaze. I locked eyes with Ryan, my voice low but sharp as a knife. You think you can threaten me? You think you can keep hurting my daughter without paying a price? You're wrong, Ryan. I'm not letting this go. I turned to the whole Whitlock family, from Mr. Harold's cold stare to Evelyn's faint smirk to Abigail's disdainful glare. All of you, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. You're going to pay for what you did to Emily. The Whitlocks' living room fell into a terrifying silence, like the air had been sucked out, leaving only a thick tension ready to explode. I placed my hand on Emily's shoulder, feeling her frail frame under the scarf, my voice steady and unwavering. This isn't a private matter anymore. This is domestic abuse. My words landed like a stone in a still lake, rippling through everyone in the room. Evelyn, still holding her wine glass, let out a mocking laugh, swirling it like she was enjoying a joke. Abuse, she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm and arrogance. We're just teaching her her place, Rose. You should thank us for putting up with her this long. Ryan stepped closer, his eyes red from alcohol and rage. He spat his words like he was chewing each one before letting it out. She fakes depression. Fakes pain to do nothing. No one's hitting her. We're just sick of her uselessness. He paused, staring at me with a twisted smile. Teach your daughter again, Rose. Nobody loses 4 pregnancies in a row. Maybe she did it on purpose. Those words were like a razor blade. They didn't just cut my heart. They tore open Emily's unhealed wounds. I heard her breath catch like she'd been punched in the chest. 4 miscarriages. 4 times she called me sobbing, her voice broken, saying she'd lost the children she could never hold. Each time I could only clutch the phone, helpless from afar, trying to comfort her with empty words. And now Ryan dared to stand in front of me and say she'd done it on purpose. I clenched my fist so hard my nails dug into my palm, blood rushing to my face. He'd crossed a line I couldn't forgive. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket. My hand shook, but I quickly dialed the nearest police station. I'm calling the cops, I said, my voice cold as ice, though inside I was a hurricane. A report will be filed. You'll answer to the law. I emphasized each word like I was carving them into the air, making sure everyone knew I wasn't bluffing. Ryan froze. The wine bottle slipped from his hand, clattering onto the hardwood floor, red wine staining the expensive rug. Panic flashed in his eyes, though he tried to regain his air of superiority. You wouldn't dare, he shouted, but his voice wavered like he hadn't expected me to go this far. Mr. Harold, who'd been watching with a cold expression, stepped forward, adjusting his tie, his deep, growly voice booming with authority. You have no idea who you're challenging, Rose, he said. I've spent my life on the judge's bench. I've seen the worst this world has to offer. You think a phone call will make us tremble? His eyes were sharp as knives, reminding me the Whitlock family wasn't easily shaken. But I didn't back down. I'd seen my daughter shivering in the cold, and nothing, not even Mr. Harold's power, would silence me. Abigail from the table, crossed her arms, and let out a mocking smile. Go ahead, make the call, Ms. Rose, she said, her tone taunting. Let's see who they believe. A crazy old lady or a respected family like ours. You think the police will side with you? Her venomous laugh rang out, confident I'd fail. Emily, still on the couch, tugged at my sleeve, her voice trembling in a whisper. Mom, please don't do it. I just want peace. Her red eyes, full of fear, seemed to say she was terrified things would get worse. I looked at her, my heart aching. I knew she was scared. Scared of the Whitlocks' retaliation, of more humiliation piling on. But I also knew if I stopped now, Emily would be trapped in this pain forever. I squeezed her hand tightly, trying to pass her some of my courage. You don't have to be afraid, I said softly but firmly. I'll protect you. I promise. I lifted her in my arms, snow from her clothes falling onto the rug like pieces of a shattered dream. I ignored the Whitlocks' scornful glares and their muttered threats. All I knew was I had to get her out of that place, out of that cage of cruelty she'd been locked in for too long. As I turned toward the door, I saw Jake through the foggy glass, standing on the porch, his hand rested on his radio, his eyes burning with a hidden fire, ready to act at any moment. I gave him a slight nod, enough to let him know I was ready for the fight. Jake nodded back firmly, his hands still gripping the radio like a promise he'd stand by me. I walked out without looking back. Behind me, I heard Evelyn yelling at the housekeeper to clean the spilled wine on the rug. I heard Ryan slam his hand on the table, muttering a curse. Then Mr. Harold's deep, angry voice echoed as he called someone on the phone. All those sounds were like arrows piercing my back, but I didn't care. I took Emily to my small apartment near the National Training Center where I'd lived for years as a coach. It wasn't fancy, just a living room with an old couch, a simple kitchen in the corner, and a few family photos on the wall. But to me, it was a safe place where I could shield my girl from the Whitlocks' insults and the cruel cold. I carried Emily to her room and gently settled her on the bed. She was still shivering, though wrapped in my thick coat. I dug through the closet for an old sweater, put it on her, then made a mug of hot cocoa, its sweet aroma filling the chilly air. Drink this, sweetheart, I whispered, placing the mug in her hands. But she just stared at it, her eyes empty, like she didn't believe she deserved even a bit of warmth. My phone rang, cutting through my thoughts. It was Jake. His voice was deep and steady. "Ms. Rose, I just filed the initial report at the station, but the Whitlocks won't go down easy. They've got influence. You know that. I'm ready to testify as a witness if you need me." I felt the determination in his tone, like a small flame that never dies. Jake, my old student, the one who once stood in the dojo with bright eyes, was now by my side in a different kind of fight. "Help me prepare, Jake," I said, my voice brief but full of gratitude. "This could be a long battle." He replied with a simple, "I got it, coach. I'm here." The next morning, I took Emily to a therapist in downtown Boise. Dr. Linda Carter, an older woman with a kind gaze, welcomed us into a cozy office. After talking with Emily, she looked at me, her voice heavy and sad. "She's suffering from severe depression, Miss Rose. 4 miscarriages combined with constant insults from her in-laws have crushed her confidence. She needs rest, treatment, and above all to feel safe." I nodded, my heart tightening. I knew Emily wasn't okay, but hearing it from the therapist felt like another stab. I looked at her, curled up in the chair, her hands clasped tightly, and blamed myself for not being there sooner. That afternoon, Jake stopped by the apartment out of his police uniform, carrying a bag of fruit and some old cookbooks. He set them in front of Emily, hesitating. "I know you like cooking," he said. "Thought maybe starting small, like a pie or some chicken noodle soup, might make you feel better." His voice was gentle, but I saw the worry in his eyes. Emily lowered her head, clutching the edge of her blouse, and murmured, "Thanks, but I don't think I can do anything anymore." Her words pierced my chest like a needle. Jake's face fell for a moment, but he didn't push her, just nodded quietly. He left the bag on the table and turned to me. "Ms. Rose, whatever you need, just say it. I've got your back." That night, after Emily was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table under the dim light. On New Year's Eve, I arrived unannounced at my daughter's doorstep. The bitter wind of Denver whipped through the streets like a relentless enemy, carrying snow that bit at my exposed skin like shrapnel. At 58, after 30 years as a wildfire fighter in the Rocky Mountains, I'd battled infernos that devoured forests and homes, but this cold was different. It clawed at my soul, reminding me of the fragility I'd tried to forget. I gripped my backpack tighter, my calloused hands aching from the chill despite the gloves. I'd driven all night from Montana, where I'd retired to a quiet cabin eager to surprise Ava. My only daughter, the girl who'd been my anchor through every blaze and loss. I imagined her eyes widening, her hug tight, just like when she was a kid and I'd returned from weeks on the fire line, smelling of smoke and survival. The truck I'd borrowed from an old crewmate rumbled to a stop a few blocks from her house in Cherry Creek, a neighborhood of manicured mansions and holiday lights that twinkled like false promises. Ava had married into the Sterling family 2 years ago. Lucas Sterling, her husband, came from oil money, his father, Victor, a tycoon with fingers in state politics, his mother, Beatrice, a former model who hosted lavish fundraisers but hid a tongue sharp as a knife. His brother, Damien, was there too, with his wife and their toddler, all part of the perfect family image. I'd attended the wedding, toasts flowing like rivers, but their politeness had always felt thin, like ice ready to crack. Still, Ava glowed with happiness, and I told myself that was enough. As I walked the snow-covered sidewalk, my boots leaving deep prints, memories flooded me. The last call with Ava, a month ago, her voice strained but insisting she was fine. She'd mentioned the holidays would be busy, but I heard the undertone, the exhaustion, the hint of tears she swallowed. I'd been absent too often during her childhood, fighting fires while her mother, my ex-wife, raised her alone until cancer took her when Ava was 12. I stepped in then, teaching her to be tough, to face the flames of life head-on. But now, as I neared the house, a knot of worry tightened in my chest. The Sterling home loomed, its windows aglow with warm light, strings of icicle lights dripping from the eaves. Laughter echoed from inside, mixed with the pop of champagne corks and the faint strains of Auld Lang Syne from a speaker. Through the large bay window, I saw the family gathered around a massive dining table covered in a white linen cloth, laden with extravagance, a prime rib roast carved to perfection, truffle mashed potatoes, asparagus with hollandaise, and crystal flutes bubbling with Dom Perignon. Victor sat at the head, his grey suit impeccable, raising a toast. Beatrice, in a sequined dress, clinked glasses with Damien's wife, Clara, while the toddler banged a spoon on his high chair, giggling. Lucas stood by the marble fireplace, stoking the flames, his laugh deep and carefree. But Ava was nowhere in sight. I scanned the room, my breath clouding the glass. Not at the table. Not in the adjacent kitchen, where a caterer bustled. A chill unrelated to the weather crept over me. Then, a faint sniffle from the back patio. I circled the house, my heart pounding. There, on a stone bench under a bare arbor, sat my daughter. Ava, in a simple cotton dress and cardigan, her arms wrapped around herself, shivering in the 25-degree night. Snowflakes dusted her dark hair, her bare feet tucked under her, toes curled against the cold stone. No coat. No shoes. Just the merciless wind whipping through her. My world stopped. Ava. I dropped my backpack and ran to her, stripping off my heavy jacket to wrap around her. Her skin was like ice, her lips tinged blue, her body racked with tremors. Sweetheart, what happened? Why are you out here? She looked up, eyes red and puffy, tears freezing on her lashes. Mom? Her voice was a broken whisper, barely audible over the wind. She leaned into me, her head on my shoulder, sobs shaking her frail frame. I held her close, rubbing her arms, feeling the fragility that hadn't been there before. Rage ignited in my chest, hot as any wildfire I'd fought, but I focused on her, getting her warm, getting her inside. I lifted her effortlessly, she was lighter than a hose pack, like sorrow had eaten away at her. Her bare feet dangled, leaving no prints in the snow as I carried her to the back door. Inside, the celebration continued, voices raised in a toast. I heard Lucas's baritone, to another year of success, without the drama. Laughter followed, clinks like mocking bells. Flashbacks assaulted me as I approached the door. Just hours earlier, I'd been at a truck stop outside Denver, fueling up, my thermos of black coffee steaming in the cab. The radio played holiday tunes, families pulling in for last-minute trips. I'd called Ava from there, excited to hear her voice. Ring after ring, no answer. Texted, on my way, surprise. Nothing. Unease nod, but I dismissed it. Maybe she was setting the table, arranging the sterling silverware Beatrice prized. Or wrapping gifts, like she did as a kid, her tongue sticking out in concentration. The drive through the city had been slow, roads slick with ice, traffic thick with revelers heading to parties. At a stoplight near downtown, I spotted a familiar face among the traffic cops, Riley, a young firefighter I'd trained years ago. He'd switched to police work after an injury, but kept the same fierce gaze. Tall, with a scar on his cheek from a backdraft, he directed cars with precise gestures. Riley! I shouted through the window. He turned, his face lighting up under his hat. Captain Ellis? What brings you to Denver? New Year's with Ava. My daughter, remember her from the station picnics? His expression shifted, a shadow crossing his eyes. Yeah. Ava. How's she doing? Fine, I hope. Why the look? He hesitated, glancing at the cars. Just, be careful. Happy New Year, Cap. The light changed, and I drove on, that shadow lingering like smoke. Now, with Ava in my arms, that shadow became a storm. I pounded on the glass door with my elbow, the sound echoing. The music paused. Footsteps hurried. Beatrice slid the door open, her sequins sparkling, a flute in hand. Her smile faltered. Laura. This is unexpected. Why didn't you call? I pushed past her, laying Ava on the leather sectional by the fire. Unexpected? Your son left my daughter to freeze to death. Look at her. The room went silent. Victor set down his glass with a thud. Clara pulled the toddler close. Damien crossed his arms. Lucas approached, face hardening. She was upset. Needed space. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? I snapped, tucking a blanket around Ava. It's below freezing. She's hypothermic. Beatrice sighed, swirling her champagne. Ava's always so sensitive. The holidays bring out her issues. Issues? I whirled. You mean the 2 miscarriages you've made her feel like failures for? The word hung heavy. Ava had confided in me about them, the first at 10 weeks, after a family dinner where Beatrice grilled her about heirs. The second at 14 weeks, blamed on her lifestyle by Lucas. I'd sent money for fertility treatments, listened to her weep over the phone, helpless from my cabin. Each loss had chipped away at her spirit, and now this exiled to the cold like an unwanted guest. Damien snorted. She's dramatic. Can't handle the pressure of being a Sterling. 2 losses? Maybe she's not cut out for it. The toddler mimicked Aunt Ava bad. My fists clenched. You vipers. All of you. Victor rose, voice commanding as a boardroom. This is our home, Laura. Private affairs. Ava knows what's expected. Expected? I echoed, stepping into his space. To be your broodmare? I've heard the whispers, the insults, the isolation. But this is cruelty. Ava murmured from the couch, Mom, stop please. But I couldn't. The Sterlings exchanged glances, their elegance masking ugliness. Beatrice sipped her drink. She's infertile, dear. A liability. We've been tolerant. Liability. The word fueled my fire. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the police. This is abuse. Lucas laughed. Try it. Dad's golf buddies with the chief. See how that plays. I dialed, reporting the incident, my voice steady as in a fire report. As I hung, I saw Riley through the window, his patrol car pulling up, perhaps on patrol or intuition. His eyes met mine, filled with resolve. He entered, badge flashing. Ma'am, I got the call. What's the situation? His presence tilted the balance. The Sterlings tensed. Victor stepped forward. Officer, a misunderstanding. No need for official involvement. Riley assessed Ava, his jaw clenching. Looks like neglect at least. Possible abuse. That night, Riley helped me get Ava to an ER for warming and checks. She was stable, but the doctor noted malnutrition, anxiety, signs of prolonged stress. We crashed at a motel. Ava broke down over tea. They hate me, Mom. Because I can't have kids. Lucas controls the money, the friends. Beatrice calls me the empty vessel. Damien's family teases. I tried to leave, but Lucas said he'd destroy me. I held her, flames of vengeance roaring. Not on my watch. The following weeks were a battle plan. I rented a small condo in Denver, using my pension. Riley visited, bringing takeout, sharing fire stories to lift Ava's spirits. He'd lost his partner in a blaze, but his heart was unscarred. You're a survivor, he told her. We filed for divorce. My lawyer, a tenacious ex-JAG officer, compiled evidence, emotional abuse, financial manipulation, medical records linking depression to the miscarriages. I provided transfer receipts, thousands I'd sent for essentials, but Lucas had diverted most. The Sterlings countered with a powerhouse team. Discovery uncovered emails, Beatrice to Lucas, dump her if she can't deliver. Damien's texts ridiculing Ava's grief. But in court, it burned to ash. The judge, Judge Monroe, had oil ties to Victor, donations, shared hunts. Evidence circumstantial. Riley's testimony conflicted because we'd trained together. A nanny testified for them, claiming Ava was withdrawn, unfit. I confronted the nanny outside. How much for your soul? She whispered, they threatened my job. The verdict, divorce approved, but no abuse acknowledged. Assets to Lucas's the house, investments, even Ava's art supplies. She got scraps. In the courtroom, Lucas whispered, told you, has been. We own this town. Riley lunged, scar flushing red. You scum. Ava stopped him, sobbing. No fights. I want peace. Cameras rolled. The video exploded online. Firefighter mom battles oil dynasty for daughter. Hashtag Sterling scandal trended. Protests at Victor's offices. Investors fled. The empire cracked, environmental suits surfaced, inspired by our fight. Ava and I rebuilt in the condo. Therapy mended her. Riley became constant, his kindness a spark. One summer evening, by the Platte River, he proposed. Kids or no, you're my world. They wed simply, me beaming. The Sterlings? Ruined, shunned. Lucas alone, sued by ex-employees. Beatrice's events boycotted. Victor bankrupt. Revenge was endurance, love the true fire. If in my boots, would you battle? Your tale could ignite hope. This story is fictional, drawn from real pains. Names altered for protection. We share to inspire reflection on silent suffering. God bless the fighters.